I am making a Numeron deck profile. I have loved this deck ever since I saw it in season, or towards the end of season 3 of Yu-Gi-Oh's Exile when it was used by Don 1000. I'm just hoping that someone, or one of my friends' prediction of the other 6 Numeron cards will be in the next Battles of the Legend set. But other than that, this deck seems to be pretty good when I can OTK. And I just think a draw card the deck has is kind of hilarious. But starting off with the monsters, I play 3 copies of Numeron Wall. Numeron Wall is a level 1 Dark Fiend that has the effect of if it's the only monster you control, or if you don't control any monsters other than Numeron Wall, you can discard it to then activate Numeron Network from your deck. And then if you would be attacked directly and take battle damage, then you can special summon Numeron Wall, end the battle phase, or you can summon it and then you end the battle phase. So that's pretty much it. So what you can do is your opponent can attack, you take damage, summon it, your opponent tries to do something, and if your opponent tries to do something with it, you can just tribute it, then activate Numeron Network from your deck. Then, moving on to the hand traps, I play 3 copies of Effect Veiler, 3 copies of psy-frames Gear Gamma, 3 copies of Ghost Ogre, 3 copies of Ghost Bell, and 3 copies of Ash Blossom. The only reason I'm playing 15 hand traps in the deck is because I need to make sure my opponent can do as little as possible, and to ensure the safety of Numeron Network. So, negate monster effects not once per turn. Also negate an activated monster effect. Technically not once per turn, but its use depends on how many psy-frame drivers you play. You can destroy a monster that activates its effect, or a face-up spell or trap that was already in play that has activated its effect. Stops a card that go from the deck to either the hand, graveyard, or field, and stops any card that would move a card from the graveyard. Ogre, Ash, and Bell are hard ones per turns, though. So technically, in this deck, I am playing 18 hand traps because Numeron Wall's effect in the hand still is technically a hand trap because it's quick effect. And I play 3 copies of Planet Pathfinder just to help me get to the field spell. I normal summon it, tribute it, add a field spell. Very simple. And the last monster I'm playing in the deck is the one driver for Gamma. Moving on to the spells. With the one-ofs, I play 1 Terraforming so I can search for Network. 1 Upstart Goblin, because why not? And then the fun draw card in this deck I find to be fun is 2 copies of Memories of Hope. Memories of Hope is a hard once per turn card that lets you draw 1 card for every different number you control. So with the card I'm going to get to later, Memories of Hope lets you draw 4 cards for no apparent reason off of just really 1 card. And then moving on to the other 2 cards, I play 2 Cosmic Cyclone because I realized Mystical Space Typhoon and Mirror Force surprisingly stopped me. And I don't mean any kind of special Mirror Force, I mean just normal Mirror Force. Then moving on to the 3 spells, Forbidden Chalice. It's just a Veiler that can be used on either player's turn, but also increases the targeted monster's attack by 400. Call by the Grave as an answer to hand traps against me. And the card that I was talking about that lets you summon 4 numbers, Numeron Calling. If you control Numeron Network and you don't control any monsters, you can special summon up to 4 Numeron monsters, Numeron Xyz monsters from your extra deck with different names. Or Numeron Gates, my bad. But they are just banished during the end phase. To finish off the main deck, I play 3 copies of Numeron Network. During the main phase, I can send 1 Numeron normal spell card from my deck to the graveyard that can be activated, and then I replace that effect with that card's effect for the turn. So, what I was talking about with this is if my opponent goes ogre, then I can use gamma to then negate ogre, summon it. And I was afraid that because of gamma on itself and driver, network would then fizzle, but since it's already set the card and the effect's already been activated, it does not fizzle. And then its other effect is Numeron. These monsters can activate their effects without having to use a material. So that's it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra deck, which is where pretty much everything is. I play 3 copies of Numeron Gate ACOM. I've thought about taking one of the Numeron Gate ACOMs out for psy-frame Lord Omega, just for when I have to gamma on my own turn, because that way I can have a monster, and still be able to do stuff even if my opponent somehow manages to live. 3 copies of Numeron Gate Deve, 3 copies of Numeron Gate Trini, and I finish off the Numeron Gates, 3 copies of Numeron Gate Katvari. All the Numeron Gates share the same effect of they can't be destroyed by battle, and if they battle a monster, then they can use one material to then double the attack of all Numeron Gates in play. So first one attacks with 1,000, then 2,000, then 4,000, and then finally 8,000. And it's the last attack that I realized Magic Cylinder is going to hurt, because that takes out all your life points. And then I also play 2 copies of Chaos number 1, Numeron Chaos Gate Sunya. Sunya's effect is when it's Xyz summoned, so it's an on-summon effect, where it banishes all monsters currently in play, and then during your next standby phase, Sunya summons itself back, and then if Numeron Network is in play, then you burn your opponent for the same amount of damage as the combined attack of all Xyz monsters that are still banished. So normally I'd summon this after my 4 attacks, banish it and the rest of the gates. It comes back next turn and burns for 3,000. And the final card I'm playing in the deck, I absolutely hate it. I believe this card does need to be banned because of how Numeron is being splashable. This card needs to get banned because I feel like it's the only real way for Numerons to actually be fair outside of, I'm going to just attack for big damage. And that is Shining number 0, Utopic Zexal. Utopic Zexal's summon cannot be negated. This is the first turn option for the Numerons of basically being able to calamities your opponent for all of their cards, so they're locked out of their spells and traps as well as monster effects. However, once it gets down to 1,000, your opponent can probably easily beat over it. So it's pretty much just a 2-turn calamities that says you don't get to do anything except set a monster. And I feel like that shouldn't be allowed. I honestly think cards like Zexal and Calamities shouldn't exist because there shouldn't be cards that say you just don't get to play. But for now, I feel like a douchebag for playing Zexal, but oh well. So that is it for my Numeron deck profile. If you have any ideas of what I can do to improve the deck, feel free to comment below. And if you have any other deck ideas you want me to try to make, feel free to comment that below as well. And thanks for watching.